I want to thank the tech gods for ever creating Clubhouse because I got to meet this incredible woman so many years ago. So random that Clubhouse even existed. If you're listening to this and you're like, I don't even know what the hell you're talking about, Christine, it was literally an app that was an audio like a live podcast. It was great. And for Erica and I who love to talk, it was one of those things that just brought so many people together. So thanking Clubhouse, but thanking you, Erica. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. I'm so excited for our conversation.
Oh my God, Clubhouse, Christine. I was like, you're famous on Clubhouse. I know you from Clubhouse. I just remember burning my dinner and getting in trouble from my whole family because I was about to have a moment to speak on the stage. And it was everything. It like ruined my life for 2 weeks.
It did, didn't it? Like I was literally like on it all the time. I was obsessed with
It
it.
was crazy.
Yeah, so funny.
But we
But I'm
found
glad
each
that it brought
other.
us together. Yes, it brought us together. So I am so excited for our conversation today because we're going to be talking all about magnetism. And I just absolutely love this conversation. But also, I just want to acknowledge you for your level of magnetism and what you bring to the online space and the way that you support incredible people online as well as within your community. Honestly, it is such a light that shines in our world, and it supports us to also give us permission to do the same. And I just love how magnetic you are when you show up. So I just want to start there by absolutely showing you some gratitude because I know sometimes we don't get to experience that, and we're just going for it, right? We're doing everything we can to scale our businesses, and it takes so much guts and grit. And yet it's one of those things that is that choice constantly to put yourself out there. So I'm sure that that's not an easy thing, especially with the year that you've had. So I appreciate you so much for being that light.
Oh, I love you. Thank you so much. Thank you. And back at you, sister. Like I got to hang out. We actually got to meet and hug each other in real life this year, which was amazing. Highlight. And it's just so beautiful. So reflecting and mirroring it back to you. And thank you for showing up as you do and creating this amazing podcast and having me on here to talk about this. It means the universe to me. And you are such a beautiful human being.
Oh, it's my pleasure. My pleasure. So I'd love to take it back a bit because your first book, Confidence Feels Like Shit, is one of my favorite books. It was so good. And it talked a little bit more about your story and what confidence really means and how to really develop true confidence. Can you talk about the journey from that book to now your new book, Becoming Magnetic?
Yes. Oh my gosh. So I can't believe I have two books. It is not a small thing. It takes so much energy and so much mind space, emotionally charging, spiritually. Like I was saying to you before we started recording, I'm wrecked. Like I never say I'm tired, but I'm freaking exhausted. Like this book takes a lot. But the first book was 2020. So to be honest, Christine, what happened was 2017 to 2019. I feel like it was my best time. And I had just started. And for whatever reason, we started strong and we kicked off, and financially it was good. And there was so much momentum and everything was rocking. And we were on an international tour because ERIKA didn't think about going around Australia. No, ERIKA's like, I'm going to go from Melbourne to New Zealand to Los Angeles and all around America. And then I'll come back in Australia. And we were on this tour. And in 2019, I did 19 live events. 19 live events and 13,
Insane.
I know, wild. Like 13 of those were in our program and the rest were like collaborative events with other people. And then here comes COVID, right? And sits my ass down and is like, you're not going anywhere. So I had literally got back from America. I was jazzed up, ready to go. And I was faced with the reality that I was going to have to sit on my ass and do nothing. And I think at that time in my business, when you launch your business and you have that energy, it's a momentum building. And so to then have a brick wall like stop you in the middle of your momentum, I was just like, I felt like Mario with the star. And I'm like, I'm wasting the tin, 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 tin. Like I have to go do something. So I bounced around my house and was like, I'm going to write my book. And I think I had it in me for so long that the process of confidence that we had worked out. And my husband was 100% a part of that, co-editor, co-writer. He was amazing. And I was like, well, what else am I going to do? So in those 6 weeks, we wrote the book. And I will say about myself back then, I was very juvenile and immature in the sense that I had beliefs about gatekeeping. I had beliefs about not being able to be myself and not being allowed to write and speak and show up with a hot pink book with cheetah print pages and bad words all over it. And so I got really in my head about, I'm going to do this myself. And it's an old thing that's messed with me for a long time, is that I don't trust anyone from my trauma and my past, like not even my husband. Like I don't trust anyone. I need to make it happen and I have to do it now. And so we wrote the book in 6 weeks and it came out in like 5 months. Like it was like, I don't know,
Wow.
August to November 30th, it was in my hand. And it was an amazing experience. But looking back at that book now, when you write a book, it's like you frozen in time. So what you believe, who you are, frozen in time. And it's very scary because I look back at it, I'm like, oh, like cringing, like, why did I say that? Like, I don't even have the definition of confidence in the book, which is now what I speak about. So I knew a depth of confidence, but there's so much more now. So it was awesome. It was great, but it was full on because it was COVID. But a lot of authors I speak to were like, that was the worst time for them because they couldn't leave their home and they felt like they had to write. Where for me, I bounced around the world and it felt like now it's time to be quiet and do this. And so, yeah, from confidence feels like shit to becoming magnetic is 4 years of a journey. Luckily, or I don't know if luckily, but because of our audience and what we do and how we show up, we were able to sell like 20,000 copies of Confidence Feels Like Shit, which is
Incredible.
wild. As a self-published book, I mean, like we didn't have, nobody took our book, like we did it ourselves. And so it was great. And I think, Christine, if I'm honest, it was because I wrote live on Instagram with my audience. I opened chapters, I would cry at 2 a.m. and everyone was watching because they were on their phones in COVID. Now,
Mm.
I don't know that this book will sell as many as that did because everyone's busy. We do in our life. You know what I mean? So it was very much a frozen in time moment, that book, but I'm really proud of it, but it is not how I think now. There's so much missing and you have to do that. You have to put your content out on imperfect, as you know, and then cringe at yourself later. So
A
yeah,
hundred
that was,
percent.
yeah.
100%. And I think that there's nothing negative about that. So I just want to like highlight that because I think that
Yeah,
you have to start somewhere. And if you didn't start that process there and didn't get that out of your head and onto paper, then this book wouldn't be as good. I think
totally.
this would be my opinion.
Yeah.
But like you've got to start somewhere. And like I love that you think that I look back and cringe because otherwise if you didn't look back and go, oh, it's exactly the way that I think now, like you'd be
Yeah.
like, you haven't grown, you
No
haven't
growth.
changed.
I know.
You're in
I'm just
exactly
like,
the same place.
I'm like, somebody should have told me I couldn't say that. And I just was wilding out. I think it was my rebellious, like against the system. And so I just went all hardcore.
Yeah.
But then funnily enough, a lot of my friends in my circle were writing books and Penguin kept popping up, the name Penguin. And, how do you submit a book? I also didn't want to submit a book I didn't want to submit and then wait for them to approve me and then wait for them to go, yeah, in 18 months. So when you write a book with a traditional publisher, they're not in a rush. And my publisher this year, Penguin, was in a rush. They were like, we want this out in January. And all my friends were like, you're going to write this book in a year? And I was like, bitch, I wrote 6 weeks. I'm like, this is slow. Like, can we speed it up? So, you learn patience as you age. As you know, Christine, when we get a little bit older, we get more patience and we get more wisdom. And so somebody connected me to Penguin and the lady was like, I loved your first book. I love that you do practical coaching. Everything you say is practical. And I'm like, you know about my book? And she was like, yes, it was great. And we got to chatting. And then this book was not called Becoming Magnetic. It was called Show Up, Stand Up, Speak Up.
Oh,
Your
wow.
guide to eradicate imposter syndrome and take up space, which is such a great name for a book. But then I was telling her about things and she's like, what did you say? Magnets. What was magnetic? What is that? And so her ears perked up. And obviously, publishers know retail, they know sales, they know marketing, they know what's happening in every country, they know what's happening in Australia, for me, Australia, New Zealand. And she said to me, there's no book on magnetism. There's a book in America that came out in July, one book about magnetism. And I mean like proper, not someone who's self-published on Kindle or whatever. No
Yeah.
offense if that's you. But KDP, the people listening. One book in the UK that comes out 2 days after my book. And then in Australia, there's no books on it. And so she's like, I think this is going to go off. And so the book became about magnetism. And I had to myself, like, when you create content, you actually learn what you think about things. And you're like, actually, oh shit. And so, yeah, that was born. And in December 2023, I signed the contract when I was in Sydney at the Toronto Zoo. And I was like, holy shit. And so this whole year had been about becoming magnetic and writing this book. And it's been a fucking journey, girlfriend.
Yeah.
Took my soul.
Have you found like through the journey of writing it, like that intention of setting that intention from December, of like, this is what I'm writing about. Have you found that you fully lived it?
Oh, you know what, if I can be honest, I never thought that I was a magnetic person because I didn't think about it. And then the more I opened up magnetism, I just thought I'm friendly, I'm bubbly, I'm outgoing, I'm an extrovert, as people call me, because I never know what that was. I love humans. I love talking to strangers. I love smiling at people. I'm typical fucking American. That's why me and Christine love each other, because she's an American as well and at heart. Um, and so I didn't know. And then as I started digging into magnetism and what it was in the science side of things and magnets, and then I was like, oh my God, I've always been magnetic. Like, that's exactly, of course. And Hamish goes, my husband's like, of course you can write this book. You're magnetic. And I was like, oh my God. And so it was really cool to see myself as a magnetic person and then go, well, what is magnetism? And what are the kind of like mind map offshoots? And of course, confidence is an offshoot. And of course, a micro skill. And then the more I got into like, wait, you can teach, it felt very much like confidence feels like shit. 5 phases by mistake. We didn't do that on purpose, because sometimes you should do things like that on purpose. But the confidence book has 5 phases of the practice of confidence. Becoming magnetic had 5 phases. And both of them is like, you're never done. You don't just do the 5 and you're done. It's like, it's a continuous cycle that you move through as you grow your confidence, as you grow your magnetism. And I was just like, I felt like they're little cousins. So it was kind of cool to write a sidestep book. I don't know what that would be called, not a sequel, a prequel, but like a sidestep to the mind map of how you can be a fulfilled, confident, out there person. So yeah, it's been a freaking journey. And I've learned a lot about myself and magnetism and my kids. My kids are so magnetic. And I see that through, and they're in the book, there's a part about like magnetic parenting, because I thought like magnetism in all areas of our lives. And it's so funny to see that, because I'm like, oh, I see that in my kids, like, and it's beautiful.
Oh, I love that so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
So for the listeners listening, what is magnetism? Like if you were to describe it, give us the definition, what does magnetism mean to you?
So there's a whole massive kind of definition in the book, but when I think about being a magnetic person, I think about someone who exudes this essence and presence about them that draws you in like a light, like moth to a flame, and they walk in, or you see them at the airport, and something about you goes like, huh. And it makes you look twice, and it makes you keep eye contact, and you're interested, and you feel good about it. And I guess the opposite would be someone that makes you get the icky, weird, oh, like my gut feels off, like you feel off. And it's all energy, right? Like that person that gives you that ick, you feel something intuitively, you feel energetically like something doesn't feel right. You walk into a room and people are pissed off, you feel the tension. You can't see tension, but man, you can feel it. And so I feel like when you're magnetic, you're this person that draws people in and draws opportunities. It's like lights go green, parking spots are open, that feeling, right? Not always, but it's that feeling. And you want to be around that. And it's that vibe that someone gives out.
Yeah. And you're so right. You do feel it. There's this energy about it. And sometimes you don't even realize that you're being drawn to someone. And then you're like
Yes.
in their world. And there's
Yes.
something about this person. And so
Yeah.
in the book, you talk about like self-mastery being one of the first phases. So why is self-mastery so important when it comes to becoming magnetic?
Oh my gosh. So yeah, we did the 5 kind of phases of magnetism. And the first one is self-mastery. And within self-mastery, there's really 3 key areas. And so it's self-awareness, which first we have to become aware. It's
Mm.
self-reflection. So we're aware. Now we're reflecting on who we are and what we're doing. And the third one, which is the hardest for the women, I think, that we work with, is self-acceptance. And so it's
Oh my
like
gosh, yes.
accepting yourself fully, accepting things as they are, accepting that this is who you are. And it doesn't mean you don't want to change. You can want to change and still accept who you are, accept your past, accept your ways, love yourself, compassion. So self mastery to me is the root of everything, because if you can't first master yourself, master your mind, master your energy, master your emotions, how the hell are you going to attract what you want? You won't even know who you are. So you become like a leaf blowing in the fall, in the wind. Just, who am I? What do I stand for? Who knows? That's not going to be a clear, I guess, a clear quartz for drawing in what you want. You're very smoky. And so I wanted self mastery to be the core of it, because I feel like in the spiritual circles, or when you listen to things spiritually, people are very like love and light and like manifesting and just attract and just mantras and chant mantras and put crystals in your bra. And you're like, what? So like, I don't know about anybody else listening, but I'm very practical, and I love, like, my husband's a shamanic healer, for goodness sake. Like, you can't get more spiritual than Hamish Kramer. Like, we are spiritual. I don't talk about it much because it doesn't matter. It's about, like, as in, my beliefs don't matter in this book. It's about how do we as people attract the things. So it's kind of like a little dig as well in the spiritual community about, like, you can't spiritually bypass. You can't mantra the shit out of yourself and tell yourself you love yourself when you know you hate your body, or you know you hate the way you look. Like, that energy internally does never lies. And it's this like mixed signals that we send to the universe of like, I want to be a billionaire, or I want to be rich, or I want to be successful. But internally, you don't believe you're worthy of it, or internally, you're like in scarcity, and that's okay. But if you don't admit it to yourself and do the work that's required in self mastery to work on that, then you are going to be lying to yourself and attracting everything you don't want, and repelling actually what you desire.
Yeah. And the key word there that I feel like really resonated with me there is the work. And I literally was having a conversation with clients yesterday about this. And I was like, this is
Yeah.
why we call it mindset work, because it takes work. It's not something that's so simple that is just like, oh, I can bypass it, or I can just have positive energy. Like it's,
Yeah.
or like one of those things, like having a positive mindset. It's actually bullshit, because you end up just bypassing stuff that's
Totally.
important for you to explore and unpack,
Yeah.
because there is such deep stuff around our conditioning and around what we believe about ourselves. And if we're not willing to look at it, and we're not willing to actually address, like, where does that come from, and why do I believe that, and actually do the work to shift it, that's where it starts
Mm.
to not, what am I trying to say? It's actually what stops you from being able to make those changes, because you
Yeah.
keep holding on to onto that. And that self-acceptance piece, I feel like, is so, so freaking powerful, because it feeds into so much, right? Like, if you're willing to put yourself out there online and deal with the judgment or the rejection, but you fully accept yourself, you actually don't let it land, right? Like, I
Yes.
just love that level of self-acceptance that comes to that extent of how it shows up in the world, and it changes the way
Yeah.
that you then express yourself, but also accept that yourself fully. You don't take
Yeah.
it personally when someone says, oh, I don't like you. You're like, you
Yeah.
don't even know me.
Yeah. I might not like you either. That's fine. And
Yeah.
also in your work, Christine, hello, the work that you do, it's all mindset. Like, you would have to help your clients, I can imagine, with so much of the stories that they tell themselves. And I love that you said that, because it's everything that's happened. And I hate to be like a psychotherapist here, but it's true. The reason why people say these things and we're tired and we roll our eyes when we hear the word mindset is like, look at Tony Robbins. How many years has this man been saying the same shit to different faces in different countries, in different languages translated? He has not changed his message. His message has been the same, because we have the
So
same
true.
problem.
Yeah,
It's,
because we're human. Like,
we are,
we
as
all
long
have
as
the
you have
same
a
problem.
human body, it's like, I'm sure aliens don't deal with it, but we as humans, we do. And so he hasn't changed his tune. And what you just said is so spot on. It's like, people don't think that they're traumatic lives, but it's like, if somebody bullied you as a kid, if you were the middle child and nobody listened to you, if your mom and dad got a divorce, if somebody called you fat, if you were made fun of because of your pimples, if a boy broke up with you, if a girl called you whatever, all of that stuff that feels like that's not a big deal, Erika. It's not sexual abuse. Oh, I didn't have someone die. You don't have to compare your traumatic experiences. It could be as traumatic as you asked your mom for help when you were 4 years old, and she said, 1 second, honey, and she didn't look at you and put her hand up. That alone can mess you up for your whole life, because your needs were not met as a child, and you made it mean that something bad about you. And that's what we do. And so it's funny, because I think so many of us compare our trauma, or go, oh, I didn't have this. I don't no, it's like trauma shame. It's like, no, guess what? We all went through hard shit in our lives. And those hard experiences that we had as young people 100% shaped the way you think, especially the way you think about yourself and the stories you made up about the world around you. So now when you're 30, 40, 50, 60 years old, you're going to have as you said, this conditioning or this view of life, the way you see it, that was shaped by your past. And we think we don't need therapy, and we think we don't need to cry all those terrible tears that never got cried before. Like, of course you do. And so I think that we are delusional as human beings, because we don't work on our shit, and our shit works on us. It
Yeah.
deals with us, and then it's like, oh, maybe I should, like, it should be mandatory. Therapy should be mandatory in school. Like, mindset should be mandatory in school, not teaching kids about other shit they don't need to know. It's like, so
100%.
it's important. And I think that's the core, right? Because if you're going to become magnetic, you have to fine tune the tool that is you. So you are the tuning fork, and we need to adjust it so that your frequency starts to sound really good. And you're like, oh yeah. And then you start bringing in the things that are at your level, at your wavelength. If not, you will repel the good shit and you will attract the things that you don't desire, which is, I imagine, a lot of people that I work with and you work with are attracting what they don't want and actually repelling unconsciously what they do.
Yeah, 100% every single day. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
They're like, you want
And
more money.
yeah, and
Yeah.
that's the thing is like we don't really give ourselves that level of like I think we're so wired to look externally for that level of approval or acceptance, but we're not taught, and I believe that too, like it needs to be taught in school to have that self-acceptance and self-love. And I think
Yeah.
we just there's so much fluff around it in the spiritual space, but really practically it is one of those core things that if you don't have that self-belief, if you don't have that self-acceptance, then it's very fucking hard to sell yourself. It's very
Oh, yeah.
fucking hard to grow a business, to put
Mm-hmm.
yourself out there, to do anything that you really want to truly do in this world, put yourself on stages, like whatever it is that you're wanting to
Yeah.
do. If you don't have that level of self-awareness to address
Yeah.
what's going on internally, it's very fucking hard to show up and
So
be the best
true.
version of yourself.
Yeah. And I remember in the book, I wrote something about doing the work. And at the beginning, it's very much like, I get it. This is all fluffy, airy fairy, your aura, your vibration. Like I used to side eye that shit too. Don't worry. So like straight away in the book, you can hear who I am and how I get you. I'm with you. And it's like, it doesn't mean that it's not real though, just because
Mm.
I think it was given to us internationally on this silver platter of bullshit. And, like The Secret, amazing movie, amazing concept. However, I feel like the clarity that was missing, or maybe the context in which we took it as humans, there wasn't the practicality. Gabby Bernstein, I love her. Love and Light, like Love and Light, that's so frustrating because it isn't love and light. It's dark and gloomy and fucked up. And then
Yeah.
it's love and light. But I know what she was trying to say, but it's like, so I guess if we don't look at what does doing the work mean, and we say like, you got to do the work. And so in the book, I broke down like, what does doing the work actually mean? Because I think many of us might not know. So many of my clients are like, what does that mean? And
Mm.
it's like facing your wounds, facing and acknowledging that you had hardships in the past, crying your tears, feeling your feels, sitting with your shit and just sitting, not moving around with it, just sitting with it and going, yeah, that was hard. And damn, that sucks. And really processing your emotions. And so, yeah, I think that that's always the first step. And if it, not only to magnetism, but the first step to anything.
Mm. And you're saying this as well from life experience, right? When it comes down to this, like for anyone who never met you before, which must be living under a rock, but like
Mm.
we want to be conscious of the fact that you've been through hardships. You've gone
Yeah.
through the worst of the worst when it comes to life experience and trauma, and you've been willing to face off with it. And I just love how you are so forthcoming in like expressing like it's time to deal with your shit. Like, let's not
Yeah.
actually keep hiding it. Let's not be fearful of it. Let's not put fluff on it. Let's practically go, well, hang on a minute. What is the shit that's holding me back and how can I address it straight up?
Yes, 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 yes. Yeah, it's important. Like I talk about it quite a lot, and I think it's now such a refined message. And I don't talk about my story because I want someone to feel sorry for me, or I really, have you ever stood next to a perfect person that was like immaculate, cuticles, beautiful, nails, hair, nothing out of place, and you're like, I might go stand over there. Like, damn, this person is, and they're just, everything's great, everything's amazing, there's nothing wrong, like I'm perfect. And just like the sun shines out of my ass, and you're like, yeah, so I have nothing to say to you. Like, there's no
Not
discussion. I don't
really.
feel, like, first of all, I don't feel safe to be me. I don't feel relevant. I don't feel like you get me. I don't feel like you hear me or you care about me or you see me. And it's wild because in the first 7 seconds, you're getting judged by your physical appearance. The first 11 seconds, people make major decisions about you. Like, do you care about me? Do you love me? Would you care for me? Do I care about you? And they don't even know you. This is happening subconsciously.
Mm.
So I thought my way into people's hearts and souls is to go, hey, here's all my shit. I'm a hot ass fucking mess. Here's my past. Here's my life. My husband died. I got raped. I got sexually abused. I got all this, molested, blah, blah, blah. Like, here's all my stuff. Foster kid, poor, food stamps, ghetto bitch. Like, love it. This is me. And I was also able to blah, blah, blah. And I think when people, as I say, Christine, like I get metaphorically naked on the internet and I'm like, look at all my messed up shit. Look at all my stretch marks, my scars, my cute, my cellulite. That's me. And they go, oh, I got that too. Okay, me too. And then people start to strip down metaphorically, right? And show me their stuff. But if I'm not willing to show my cards, and self-disclose and go, I see you, I know where you are because I was there. I'm not you, but I've been in that mode. Then I think people build that loyalty, that trust, that understanding. Then they want to listen to you. They don't feel like you're preaching at them. You're one of them, and you found a way out, and you're bringing a ladder, you know. And it's like, come on. And so that in the book, I say that straight away. In the chapter 1, I share my whole, it's a in-depth, kind of like in Confidence Feels Like Shit, but we took a twist so that it was different. But yeah, and I just did the audiobook, and the guy, he's like a 70-year-old Australian guy, lovely man, Ian. And he was just like, oh wow. Like he stopped the recording. He's like, man, and we had a good old chat afterwards. And he's like, I get why you're allowed to talk about this. Now I want to listen. And I'm like, of course you do, because if not, I'm just preaching that you should this, you should that. It's like, who are you to tell me that? Like, how do I want people to feel safe around me. And that's really why I show up the way I do and share the story, because it's like, if I could do it, you could do it. And if someone else has done it, how the fuck have they done it? How is Tony not a drug addict? How is Viola Davis not homeless on the streets? Like, I would talk about Oprah, but I think she's tripping lately. So we'll just keep it at Viola Davis and Tony Robbins. You know?
Choose your people.
Yeah, she's tripping. Anyway.
Yeah. It takes a lot of courage though to do that. Like I feel like I don't want to skip over that to put yourself out there at that extent and actually show all of your flaws and to put yourself out there to do that for people is super courageous. Is there something in particular that shifted for you that allowed you to do that? Or was it you like, oh, I have to do this in order for me to achieve this?
Yeah, such a good question. No, there was something in particular. It was Gary Vaynerchuk. So I had my second baby at home. I was working for L'Oreal, and I had this side hustle, Christine, for 5 years, which means 5 years is a long time to have a side hustle. It means you're bullshitting, you're sitting in fear, and you're not doing anything. You're lying to yourself by doing this little side hustle on the weekend for 5 years. And so I would watch these YouTubes of him, and my kids were, my son was 2. I was breastfeeding Nava, who was like 3-4 months old. And he said something in a video, but obviously it wasn't that video. It was the amount of videos I had watched over the years. So anybody listening in business, people don't buy from one Instagram. They've been watching, they've been listening, and then you say something that day and they're ready to hear it, but you've been saying it. And I was just ready to hear it. And he said, like, basically he gave me a bitch slap, and he was like, who do you think you are? Who cares about your life? Who cares about your story? Like, no one's going to come knocking at your door going, hey, Christine, I heard you're awesome at this in sales and, you know, helping people with their business. Can you teach us your ways? He's like, you have to get on the mic. You have to build the podcast. You have to show up on socials. You have to tell people your story, because no one gives a fuck who you are. No one's going to discover you. And I was just like, what? Like, it was like, oh, you don't get, like, he just uppercutted me. And I was just like, okay. And I had that moment. I had that waking up to, you know, that coming to Jesus moment. I was like, yeah. I was like, shit, Gary. All right. Shit. All right. And he was right. Did I have a social media presence? No. Was I being 100% myself? No. I was still trying to be liked. I was trying to be perfect. I was keeping it together. Literally how my clients feel, that's what I was doing. So when I talk to them and they go, it's like you're in my head. I'm like, I was your head. I know your head. So of course I get what you're saying. Like, and I had to really decide in that moment, like, who I wanted to be, what I wanted to do. The knock had come so many times, and I had almost had a near-death experience. I had lost my husband. I had lost everything. And it was like, what else are you going to wait for? You're going to wait till you get cancer? Are you going to wait till your legs break? Are you going to wait till this husband dies? What's going to be the wake-up call, ERIKA? Because you've had quite a few. And I was like, shit, fine. All right. And I don't know if the home birth had a difference, but I had a really bad cesarean, and then I had a miscarriage, and then I had a home birth at home, naturally, amazing. And Hamish said to me, my husband, you birthed yourself there. Like, there was some difference of, like, this hard thing I thought I couldn't do, I did. And I'm sure it was beautiful that my son came out naturally, but also I feel like it did something for me. And that was when I was like, fuck this shit, I'm doing it.
Wow. Like the ultimate hard thing to do.
Yeah. It's like vagina stretched and I came out and I was like, yeah.
Oh my gosh. I love that you shared that. And it's so true. And I feel like there's, oh my gosh, so much I want to dive into there. But I want to explore, like, I've heard you tell the story around Richard Branson and how you stood up and you went to the mic and you made yourself be seen. So can you tell us the difference between, like, that experience of, like, hearing from Gary and being like, oh my God, that I need to actually show up and be myself, from that to then actually showing up and then having that conversation with Richard Branson and how that
Yeah.
relates to you stepping into your magnetism.
Oh my God. It's such a great, I don't even use it as a magnetism story, but I will now. Thank you, Christine, because I'm like, that's actually a great magnetism story. So I went to this event. So one of my dear friends and clients owns an events company, and she runs all the big events around Australia for these corporations. And she happened to be the event producer for this Business Chicks event where Richard Branson was coming to, he was actually here for the Virgin cruise ship.
Launch. Yeah.
Yeah, he was here for the launch. Amazing cruise ship. And he just happened to be here. So they had him on stage. It was at the Melbourne Expo Center, which is a massive kind of dark space stage vibes, theater seating, and 600 people were there. Now, I hadn't bought a ticket. I was just with my friend, and I brought my team member with me. And we were probably more further at the back. So 600 people, he's on stage getting asked questions. It's a very dark room, and the stage is lit. And for whatever reason, maybe it was the dark room or the environment, the conversation was very mono, chill. And he's older. He's been to space. I'm sure his brain works differently now. And he's had some crazy jumping off airplanes, Richard Branson. And he was just like, okay, I'm bored. He said, like, can we turn on the lights? Can we flick the lights on? And does anybody have questions? And I think about the quote from Oprah: take responsibility for the energy you bring into the space. So he was getting probably paid or maybe not paid, I don't know, to be on stage and be asked questions. And he was like, I'm done. I'm bored. We need to change the energy in the room. And that's good because he decided, turn on the lights. I can't see. Can someone ask me a question?
I
And it was
love that he
beautiful to
took
watch him.
control.
Yeah, me
Yeah.
too. It was beautiful to watch him go, all right, thank you for interviewing me. And we've got all these people here. Does any of these people have a question? And also, I can't see these people. Can we flick the lights on? And so it was so amazing to witness. And then I sat there as out of 600 people, 2 women apologetically put their hand up. They didn't do the whole shooting your hand up. They did the whole, who's shy here? Me, I'm shy. You know, it's like, is that a hand or are you fixing your hair? I don't know what the hell's going on here. And I just got so pissed off, Christine. And in that moment, I was like, I would like to take responsibility for my time because my ass is sitting in this chair. I came to this event. I'm kind of a fan, but not a massive fan of him. Like Gary, I am, but he's cool, but I'm not like, I know his life and I study his work. So I'm there and I'm like, fuck, if I'm going to be here sitting my ass in this chair with my team member, I'm not just going to be passive about this. So I also took responsibility for not only my energy, but the energy of the venue. And I was like, this shit, we need to turn it up. So I stood up and I walked to the front, and one of the hosts, the MC, was a girl that I know, and we had spoken at different events. And I was kind of like, hey, give me the microphone. I have a question. So I didn't raise my hand. I stood up and I just walked up to the stage and waved down the MC. And then she gave me the microphone. And as the lady walked off the stage, I just started speaking Spanish. I was like, hola, Richard, like really loud. Like I've completely, if there was sound magnetism, like, hola, Richard Branson. And then I changed the language. I never speak in Spanish. I don't know what the fuck happened to me. It was like I got exorcism magnetism. And I was like, hey, and I made this big scene. And then I sat next to him. Everybody was across from him. I'm like, fuck it, I'm going to sit next to this guy. Gave him a hug, got amazing photos with him, but then asked him a question and got to see that he was there, but not all there. And I'm pretty sure the space thing has been fucking with the brain. But I asked him a question about his mom and philanthropy and why he gives a shit about humanity and why he does what he does. And it was an awesome moment. And then I got down, sat down. I felt good about it because I was like, oh, if we could turn up the music a little bit more and change the song, I like this party now. And it almost could sound fucking egoic. It wasn't about me and what I did, but if I'm going to be there, I am going to make sure that I do everything in my power to have a good time or I fucking go home. And anybody here, think about the lesson of Richard Branson. If I asked you, if you had the opportunity to ask Richard Branson a question, to talk to him, to sit next to him and to take a photo, would you take it? I promise you every listener would go, hell yeah. Well, guess what?
They say that, but
yeah, 600 people had that opportunity. Oh, but I didn't know I could go up there. I didn't know I could have taken a photo. I didn't know. Oh, so you're putting rules on what's possible for you? Oh, shit. So where are we missing opportunities when they're not in front of our faces? And he was asking, and Gary asked, and Gary said, get up, Australia. He yelled at everybody. I was already up, but he was yelling at Australia because people didn't get up. Richard didn't yell. He was very kind, but 2 women out of 600, that is shameful. Like where are we missing out on opportunities? And obviously, Christine, not only did I get amazing photos with Richard that I can totally use, but like 4 or 5 people sent me videos on Instagram from their angles. And then they were like, oh my God, I saw you at Richard Branson. Are you, oh, that's Erika, the Queen of Confidence, whatever. And it was a great brand move for me on multiple planes. And that wasn't even the intention. I just literally was like, fucking come on, we got to do something with this. So these are the opportunities that I really feel like we miss out on. And I want you to ask yourself as you're listening to me and Christine right now, like, where are you missing an opportunity that has become available that you're not seeing, and or you're too scared to put your hand up for? And what could that create for your business in 2025 if you actually opened your eyes to it and put your hand up?
Yeah. So many people take themselves out of the race before even challenging themselves to do something different like that. Like they're like, oh no, I couldn't do that because of these many reasons, right? Like, and I think that, if you're listening to that as well, I'm thinking like, oh, well, I might have all these opportunities, but I don't have this, and I'm not this, and I'm not this, and I'm not this. Like that's already taking yourself out of the race. And you were like, no, I'm going to make this a great event. But I think there's also this element of like had you had been speaking before and running events before as well.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's almost like a disrespect to the speaker if you're not actually prepared with a question. Now, anytime that I go to an event now, I think ahead. Like if I know who the speaker is, I think, okay, what question could I possibly ask? Because yeah, I want to put my hand up. I want to actually be on that mic. But also it's like, how are you respecting that person's time? They're giving their all and you're not even prepared with a question. So much. This happens in Australia so much and it's so disrespectful. I feel like it's this energy. I don't know what it is. Like we're here to watch, not be participate, like actually not participating in it. And I feel like going to so many events in America this year, there's this whole difference in the way that Americans go about this. And I feel like when we're in rooms with Americans, like they want to see you win. They want to know what you're working on. They are so collaborative. And I feel like Australia just isn't just there just yet. Like it's getting there slowly. And we're trying to make it get there.
We're
Yeah, we're
bringing
doing
it.
it.
Christine's an American. I love that you go to, because you would see that what's missing and why. And actually, it'd be interesting for you to think of, like, what do you think is the difference? And were you like a typical Australian? And did it shift when you went to the States? And if so, like, what was it that shifted it for you?
I think what shifted it for me is similar to what you were saying, like putting myself forward and actually just going after the opportunities because of the missed opportunities that I look back on and go, oh my God, what did I miss out on? And then challenging myself to be like, hey, how can I count myself in? How can I allow myself to be a part of the room and actually see what I bring to the table? And so I feel like it's been a huge identity shift for me this whole year, from event one that I went to in January, February, right through to the one that I just came back from. I feel like it's completely different. Like there was two different people that showed up at those events. That first one, I was like, I don't belong here. Who am I to think that I can be here? Everyone's going to think this is so stupid, Australian flying all this way to be at this event. Like I literally had all the imposter syndrome thoughts. And then this event, I was like, no, I'm here to be seen. Like it was a completely different energy. And I feel like I think it's the encouraging environment, but I think it's also the mindset of the people that I was surrounding myself with. Like when you surround yourself with people that are going after it, that are putting themselves in the arena, that are challenging themselves to do hard things, it changes the way that you think about how you're behaving. Because I think the difference with Australia is that it is a smaller pond. Like I feel like there's that element of like there is a smaller pond and there's less people doing big things. And so it's easy for us high achievers to just hide and do the mediocre things, whereas you can't in America. Like you can't. So yeah, I think there's a few things there.
Yeah, wow. That's so cool that you did, like, you noticed that about yourself, that you were two different people from the whole year. But like you did it. You went out there. And these are the things, people want to do extraordinary shit, but they're acting ordinary. And it's like you have to be willing to get her. And if you don't have that right now, cool, get around it. Like get around it. And you're like, putting my money where my mouth is. I'm paying to play, which all the values you live, I so believe in. And that's another reason why I love you. It's just like, you're doing this. And then you get to know, like, now people go, oh, you're from Australia. Like, that's magnetic. Like, you're the lady from Australia. Oh my God, Christine from Australia is here. It's like, that's the difference. I love that you've done that. It's freaking amazing.
Yeah, and it's led to some incredible things, incredible
Of
things.
course.
And the thing that's the beauty about magnetism, right? Like when you actually put yourself out there and challenge yourself to grow, it shows people that you are there and that you're someone to
Yes.
be paying attention to.
You know what? You just gave me, like, so in the book, there's like 10 myths of magnetism, like basically what magnetism isn't. And then at the end, I share what it is to me. And this is just to me and what I think. And I believe you probably think the same thing. To me, magnetism is connection. And I am obsessed with the exchange. Oh, I'm obsessed with the exchange. It makes me like, I get emotional if I think about it. I'm obsessed with the exchange of humans. Like, I'm a human, you're a human, we're on the planet, we walk by each other. I look into your eyes and I smile. Or if I dare say good morning and you go good morning and I go, have a great day. Oh, like
Yeah.
fucking, I have chills. Like, what the fuck else is there? Like, I'm going to be on this planet and so aren't you. And I happen to walk by you and I smile at you and I exchange beautiful, positive energy. Like, I can't, it means the universe to me. It means the universe to me. And if you don't smile back, I am walking around with that energy bubble, with that aura, with that vibration. My light is bright and shining and sparkly and sprinkly, and it doesn't have to be loud. I'm not loud. I'm just saying you're vibing. You walk around, that person, meh, and the next person, bling, the next person, meh, the next, bling, bling, bling. Then you find all your people, and they just fucking. I'm playing a game in my own head now with this
Yeah.
analogy, but like, it's just like green, 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 amazing. Hi, hi, hi. Oh my God. Fuck, if anything, you're going to be on planet Earth walking around. Would you rather have kind of energy where you're just like, nah, do not enter, abort mission, like red fucking flat line? Or would you rather be a green blinging light? And like, we get to choose who we want to be. And literally, my audio guy that I met, Ian, he's not doing anything. He's doing his job. I'm doing my job. I can't tell you the interconnected conversations. And I said to him yesterday, I might never see you again. I hope I do. But this has been so amazing. And I'm so grateful that I got to meet you and feel you and see you and understand your mind as a 70-year-old man who does audiobooks. And he was the audio engineer for The Secret. And he's like, whoa, this is so crazy. This stuff, like, who does he know? He knows heaps of people probably. Do I need anything from him? No. But will the universe interconnect us somehow in the future? Maybe. And if it doesn't, I had a great experience with Ian and he was a good human. And I felt good every day leaving and he felt good. What did I do for his life? I don't fucking know. But I hope I deposited some positive energy and some insight. And he definitely did for me. And then I walk around life and I meet another person. So to me, magnetism is connection. It's literally connecting with another person. And you're going to be on this earth anyway. What kind of person do you want to be? What kind of energy do you want to hold? And you're telling me if you have amazing, beautiful energy where you desire nothing from someone but to deposit goodness into the bank account of fucking life, you're not going to get a bunch of secret checks deposited. You're not going to get a bunch of great things. Of course you are. So like, that's it for me. Like, I'm nice because I want to be. That's who I am. And it's phase 2, which is the true north. Phase 2 is your values. It's who the fuck you are. You're not doing it for any other reason, but because of who you are. And I think many people, Christine, and you probably see this, they don't know their values and they're not living in alignment with them. And they don't ask, are those my values? Or are those my mom's values? Are those my values? Or is that the business cult that I joined's values? Like, hold on a minute, And so when you know who you are, then you can act accordingly.
Yeah. And there's an element there of like that willingness to pour into people that you just
Yeah.
described, like your willingness to fully be it and do it just for yourself without the wanting to get from it. I feel like that's what I
Yes.
heard coming from you, that there's this not, I'm willing to pour in and give energy and exchange that energy without that energy of like, oh, but what am I going to get from this? Like I think there's sometimes that repercussion that happens or that misconception of like, oh, I've got to give to get. But when you do truly just pour into others, you're right, like that absolute that reciprocal energy happens no matter what. And I think that
Yeah.
it's just a beautiful way to live, like when you're giving
Yeah.
from that truly willingness just to give. Like that brings me back to
Yeah.
Tony Robbins, right? Like he always talks about this wanting to give, and true giving is giving not to get. It's just
Yes.
giving to give because we feel good giving, right?
Totally. And it's a good value to have as business people.
Mm.
Like, how can I support you? What can I do for you? How can I, and it's a difference between, and if you do self mastery correctly, it's a difference between people stepping on you and you being a people pleaser. And it's one of the myths of magnetism. Like, magnetism is not people pleasing. Magnetism is not pretending to be someone you're not. Magnetism is not a lack of boundaries. Like some of the people I speak to, like, I'm a HSP. And I'm like, what does that mean? Highly sensitive person. I'm an empath. So what? So people shit all over you? No. You could be a highly sensitive person. You could be an empath and also have fucking boundaries and
Mm.
also respect your energy and also not allow people to suck you dry because you're aware of this co-creation that you're doing. So, that can be like victim mindset. Like, I'm just so magnetic that I can't go to the grocery store. I just can't shut off my energy. Oh, please shut the fuck up. Sounds like you don't have boundaries with yourself. It sounds like you need to take responsibility for your openness and close that shit up. My husband's spiritual as hell. He has to really clear himself when he works on people's energies and when he does that work, because he could get their shit if he doesn't pay attention. What's mine is mine. What's mine can go. What's not mine can go. You don't take on people's shit. You allow yourself to. And so you really have to fine tune that.
Love it. Love it so much. I'm glad that you spoke about that, because sometimes, yeah, that's that secondary piece that people are like, oh, but I give so much of myself and then it drains me. Like, no, but with boundaries, just with boundaries.
Put a limit on that.
And so, I mean, we can keep talking for so long, but I want to dive into the Alter Shego, because I know that we spoke about this when I came down to see you in Melbourne, and I loved your level of permission that you gave in this conversation, because I think when we talk about magnetism and like giving and showing up and being that best version of yourself, to be magnetized, because we're on a business podcast, I want to talk about the business side for a little bit. So like being able to show up online and with your Alter Shego, I want you to talk about this, because I feel like there's this element of like, for so long, socials was like, you have to bear all and show everything. And then there was this like, but hang on, we're running a business. Like, how do we? So can you talk us through your concept around Alter Shego?
Yes. So phase 1 is self-mastery. Phase 2 is the values. Phase 3 is creating your alter ego. So I stole it from my husband because he had a gym called Alter Ego. And basically it's Beyonce, Sasha Fierce. You know, if you look at a photo of Beyonce and a photo of Sasha Fierce, some people go, is that both Beyonce? It's like, no, one is Sasha Fierce. One is her alter ego, her altered self, her 2.0 self. And for me, the queen of confidence is my alter ego. So she doesn't give a damn about the way she looks. She's outspoken. She wears big hats and nails, and she's out there, sparkles. The crazier the outfit, the better. You know, she takes up space fully and unapologetically, and she does it to be of service. ERIKA would be like, oh my God, do I look silly? Do I look fat? Do I look weird? She doesn't care about that. So when you have this version of yourself, which some people in the spiritual circles might say your higher self, or the future you, or Christine 10.0, there's a future you living the life that you want to live. She's got the followers, she's got the money, she's got the business, she's doing it all. What is she doing? And how can we look to the future and grab her closer to the now? And it's like tapping into the future you and bringing her into the now. And so we define it, and we do this process called building your alter ego. And it's like, cool, you've mastered yourself. Now you know who the fuck you are and your values and what you stand for and your true north. Now, who is that version of you that has everything you want? And how do we walk around as her? And so this brings in my hairdressing, my styling background, my coaching and therapy background. And we basically build this version of you, and we call her a name, and we talk about what she believes in and who she is. And when I do this with women, Christine, I did this yesterday on a talk. A woman explained her alter ego with limits. So she's like, she does this, but you know, sometimes she doesn't, because sometimes she's blah, blah. And I'm like, it sounds like you mashed your alter ego with you.
Yeah.
I'm like, remove you. Your alter ego doesn't give a fuck about any of that probably shit you just said. She's like, I'm 100% going to show up like this online, you know? And so your alter ego is the unlimited, uncapped version, your unlimited potential. And so when you step into her, or at least define her, you get to see, how does she dress? What does she wear? Serena Williams does this with her magical socks before her tennis matches. You know, Lady Gaga wears heels. I dress in a certain way. I wear pink. I can't wear blue. It's illegal, right? Like, I do it on purpose because I want to set a certain brand. And when I wear that, I step on stage and I step into service, and I'm her. And so if you have something maybe where you're nervous about showing up on social media, the Alter Shego process in chapter 7 will be perfect, because you build this version of you who is not scared, the version of you who is in service. What would she say? What would her weekly lives be about? How would she sell? How does she do a sales call? You know, how does she set up her events? How does she welcome people? How does she deal with feedback negatively and criticisms and trolls? What is her view? What are the things she thinks about? Who's in her circle? Like Christine, hats off to you, because you went, I want to change my circle. You went all the way to the United States. I know that shit ain't cheap, because USD to AUD is a hot mess right now, right? It's been a hot mess for a while. And you're investing money to be around circles of people that you want to connect with, so that you can shift the energy around you. And then people will go, oh my God, how'd you do that? And you'll be like, I paid to play, and I wanted to be around the people. And then naturally, the people that vibe with you, you'll build what's called a friendship, you know, and then everyone wants to help you. But it's like, you decided who you wanted to be. And as you went in at the beginning of the year, a bit of Christine was there. And now you've fully integrated into this alter ego self, who is like, I'm getting on airplanes. Me and ERIKA are going to America next year. I'm inviting influencers that I love onto my podcast. They're saying yes, because I'm showing up as the alter ego. not the nervous Christine who's not sure. Because when you show up as the not sure, unclear, lacking confidence version of you, the world responds to her. But when you show up as your alter Shego, your 2.0 self, as her, the future you, when you walk around as future you, people respond to future you. You get results as future you. You bring what you wanted in the future into the now, and it happens now because you're being her now. And it's such a powerful distinction. Anyone can do. Anyone can do.
It is freaking powerful to do. And it's something that I've, done for so long now, where it's that definition of the future vision, future version of yourself, and
Yes.
revisit her on a regular basis. And this year,
Yes.
like you just described, like there was this moments where I was like, who are you going to be in this moment? And what are you choosing to be? And how are you choosing to show up? Like even before I went, I had a stylist session, went shopping with a
Yes.
stylist to get clothes specific for these events because I was like, I want to show up as the best version of myself. And so I love that all come back around because it's literally like stepping into that future vision of yourself because
Yes.
otherwise we can just get so caught up in just the circles that we're in and we just keep regurgitating the same behaviors,
Yes.
same mindsets, the same energy, and it just is exhausting. And so
Yeah.
sometimes you've got to make that decision to be like, no, I want more for my life and I'm going to put myself
Yeah.
in rooms where I'm going to make that happen.
Yeah. And really, if we don't take time to define the future, and some people, like, I'm just going to have some empathy here. Some of you listening to this might be like, I don't know who that future me is. Man, I have no idea. And it's like, take the time, a perfect time to do that now. Like it's a new year. Take the time to think about who is that future version of me and what do I want that I don't currently have? And what would make me happy? How much money, relationships, love, my body, my health, whatever areas of your life you want to look at and go, if it was all good and I had everything I desired, how would my life look? What would be my perfect life? And then reverse engineer. Cool. So what am I doing today? I remember, Christine, when I brought this up, when Hamish showed me this, I said to him, I want to be Tony Robbins. I want to speak on stage. I want to write books. I want events with thousands of people. So he was like, babe, we can't do one-on-one coaching anymore. And I was like, yeah, but that's like in the future. He's like, yeah, but if we continue to do this for another 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, you're never going to get to that future because he's very good at that mapping and framework. And I was like, oh my God, you're right. So that following year, Christine, we decided that we were going to launch our online program, one to many, and then kill one-to-one. This is back in 2018, and I have no more one-on-ones. So it was just this year that I started doing one-on-ones, obviously high-level, amazing women. And even with them, I'm like, I love you. I'm not going to be able to do this again. My Queen's Table, I'm like, hi, we're going to probably do a year or two. Then good luck trying to find me. I'm not going to be here. I would not be on Zoom with anybody. Like, like I'm going to be doing that. But I know that for my future. So then I act now. So what we did, we changed that program. So we closed one-to-one. We got one-to-many. That program did 500K in a year. That was our fucking second year of business. And if I didn't have that future sight and bringing it into the now, it's never going to happen. Then it becomes what I call a pipe dream. You're bullshitting yourself. You're lying to yourself. Your mind's telling you bullshit stories. But the reality is that you're nowhere near it and you haven't taken the steps to actually meet the future you. So building your Alter Shego is really a moment to, especially if you're not clear, to go, who am I? What is it? And there's a whole process in the book. And there's a playlist that goes with it, which I won't spoiler alert, but there's
Oh
a
my God,
playlist.
so
And
good.
I know it's so fun. And then that next kind of step is the evolution, and it's phase 4. So it's easy to say, I'm going to build my Alter Shego. I'm going to write my values. I'm going to do my self-mastery work. But the evolution is like, here's the test. Are you sure, Christine? Are you sure that's who you are? Are you sure you don't want to go back to your comfort zone? And it will test you in ways that you think are not test. And it's savvy, man. The universe does not mess around. It's like, let me just throw that in front of you to see if you'll take that low ticket client who never pays you because you need money. And you're like, but it's the beginning of the year. And in January, I always need money. And this lady said she'd do it. And I bent and, we're going to do it for cheaper. And then you always regret taking that client because they become a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
And it says, hold it, hold your new price or hold your new offer. Don't keep doing the old things. And so the evolution comes. And I think a lot of us fail the test. I think a lot of us think that it's not an evolution, that it's a thing and it's testing you, and you bypass evolution, that takes you to the aura. And then you really kind of move through those 5 phases, which is fucking awesome to watch.
Yes. Oh my God, so good. And you're so right. And those unique tests that the universe just sends you, and sometimes it can be super convincing, like
I know.
super convincing. Like when I had that, I literally came to mind as you were talking, I had this moment before the last trip to the States back in November. I was like, oh, but you're moving house and you've got all these other expenses. Maybe you just don't go to this one. Like had all the reasons. I even emailed them and said, like, if I don't go to this one, can I transfer it to the next one? Like, all the questions. And then I had a moment where a client of mine who actually lives there, so I was like going to be able to see her as well. She was like, you have to go. And I had this moment where I was like, that future version of me, how would she decide? Like, what would she do in this moment? And I was like,
Yeah.
she fucking booked the flight. So I
Yeah.
jumped on and booked the flight because I was like,
Yeah.
I said to myself at the beginning of the year, you're going to do this. And I signed up for all of those events in advance, knowing that that's what I was wanting to do to transform. And the last event just transformed everything.
Oh
So
my God.
sometimes the universe can be super convincing, but you've got to hold that vision, right? You've got to hold strong to it and always come back to that future version of yourself and be like, how would she decide this?
Oh, such a good question. What would my future self do? What would she do here? It's like, you're so clear on that though. And it's amazing that you followed that through. And then look at the result that you got, Christine.
Yeah.
You
Oh
passed
my
the
gosh.
test, girl.
Love it.
Oh,
Oh my God. So what would you like everyone who's going to read this incredible book, what would you like them to walk away with? What's your goal with this?
I think that the main thing that I would love is to know that you are already magnetic. You already have what it takes. It may be buried under a bunch of shit that you just swept under the rug and pushed down. And maybe if you're feeling the suppression or depression or the sadness or the I don't know who I am, or I'm feeling dark and my light's not there, there's just layers of stuff. And so my hope is that you can understand that you are already magnetic, and it's just removing the things that are stopping you from being who you truly are. It's not about adding, it's not about becoming someone new. It's really about letting go of those blocks and those layers that you've allowed to put on yourself, and some are subconscious, so that you can be consciously magnetic, so that you can intentionally decide, I'm going to get a parking spot, I'm going to marry that person, I'm going to make this much money this year, I'm going to do this thing. And when you say that and when you create that for yourself, you act as though it's done, and you be her, you become her. And by becoming her, you get her results and you get her life. And then you realize, oh my God, it's only been a year. And who I was at the beginning of the year versus who I am right now is completely different. And I didn't have to do extra. I had to remove what was no longer serving me. And so I hope that people find the book to be super practical. We found a tricky thing doing the audio in chapters 10 and 11, which are basically, after I take you through the 5 phases, I talk about magnetism in all areas of your life. And so we break down energy, like having more energy. We break down friendships, love for the single ladies that want to attract love. We break down couples, those that are in couples, parenting, business, leadership, career, and money. So we break down all the areas of your life through the 5 phases. So it's a very tangible explanation how to do it. And we found in the audiobook, it's so hard when you're listening to go through that. So I had to add a few extra little ad libs, but I hope that when you download the book, if you get the audio, you get a little PDF, or if you buy the physical copy of the book, that you can see how to do this step by step, that it's tangible for you, that it's actionable. We put heaps of magnetism and confidence and self-love and all that shit that you think people have, charisma. It's just a bunch of micro skills. They are skills that you can learn. You can learn how to be open. You can learn how to be confident. You can learn how to be warm. This isn't something some are born with and others are not. And so I hope that the most timid women who have lacked confidence and don't believe in themselves pick this book up and have a roadmap with steps on how to do it. And I'm just so excited for what it's going to do for women.
Yeah. It's going to change lives. Like when you talk about it like that, that's a life-changing permission slip. Like it's taking it to that next level and giving them the practical strategies. Because I just
Yeah.
100% agree with you that it sometimes does get a little bit lost in the spirituality kind of side when we don't have the practical strategies of actually putting it into action in our lives. So love that. And I think that we need to get the audiobook
Yeah.
and the hard copy so then we can hear the energy in your voice as you share it as well, because that's receiving that energy on
Yes.
that level too.
You could read together.
Yeah.
Yes.
We'll
Yes.
have a
Do it
little
together. I
becoming
think it was
magnetic
Alex
party.
Hormozy who said that. He was like, yeah, he was like, get the audio and read my book. And I remember being on the plane and listening to Alex Hormozy's book, and I had the actual book, and I was like, this is so good, because like you're reading and you're listening, which is the best way to learn. So yes, please, can you get both? Thanks, friends.
Yes, absolutely. Already pre-ordered, love.
Yes, I can't wait. Oh my God.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing and giving your gifts today with me here on the podcast. It's an absolute joy to spend time with you. So thank you so much for sharing and connecting here today.
Thank you, Christine. I cannot wait for y'all to read this book. And thank you for doing the work you do, my love.
My pleasure. Thank you. So I'm going to make sure that all the links are in the show notes so you can go direct and buy the book, whether it's on Audible, whether it's on any of the links, buy the hard copy, buy the Audible, and get this into your ears ASAP. And make sure that you share on social media and let us know what you took away from this episode. And make sure that you tag ERIKA so she can see all the beautiful love and what you took away from this episode. So I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for being a part of it today.
Thank you.